When I was a kid, like a lot of other people, I drew pictures. And like a lot of other kids, my drawings were not very sophisticated or good. What they were, however, is imaginative, fun, and weird. That's why I think it is a fun idea to redraw these imaginative, fun, and weird drawings, but of course with my current skill level. Welcome, fellow YouTube traveler. I'm Baronan, and I'm on a mission to learn art. And in this video, I take on the task of repainting a drawing from my childhood. For this, I have chosen a specific drawing that sums up my childhood drawings quite well. If you've followed this channel for any period of time, you might be able to guess what the subject is. It's, of course, a dragon. With the drawing selected, I started sketching a few ideas to see what would work. I wanted to keep to the original design as closely as possible, but make it just a bit more believable. First, I experimented a bit with different heads, followed by 2 full body sketches, and then trying to figure out specific parts like the wings and the legs. As you might understand, dragons were something that I drew a lot when I was a kid. It was mainly dragons and knights in armor. Fantasy was the absolute coolest thing I knew, and still is, I think. I don't really know what my main inspirations for dragons was when I was a kid, except that my older brother had a book on how to draw dragons. I remember looking at the pages in that book, awestruck by the beautiful drawings and paintings in it, wondering how on earth someone was able to create such realistic illustrations. I still think it is somewhat of a mystery, and I'm quite sure there has to be at least a little bit of magic involved, but I'm finally starting to be just a little bit closer to the level I saw in that book. With the sketches done, it was time to move on to the final illustration. Something I learned in the last video I did is to start with a motion line, to make it easier to get an interesting pose in the end. The line I drew in this instance isn't the most dynamic ever, but it will suffice for this dragon. With the motion line, I only need to build up a shape around it, and then the more difficult parts are to add wings and legs in a believable way. But I think I did quite a good job at this one. Even though this is a dragon, it is not going to be part of my world-building project, Outram, that you can watch up here. This is because I wanted to keep the design pretty close to the original, and the dragons from Outram have a pretty specific look and design, where I don't think this dragon would fit in. The goal for this illustration is to make baby Baronan proud, and to bring his design into a more believable setting. Now, when I think back about what dragons have influenced me up until this point, I find it pretty hard to pinpoint anyone as the main influencer. There are so many, but none of them stand out as the very best. I think that I have always been a little bit disappointed by dragons in movies and series. The ones that are a little bit too cartoony, like in How to Train Your Dragons for example, doesn't really scratch my dragon itch. And the more realistic dragons haven't gotten enough screen time, in my opinion. I feel like they hide them a lot because they are difficult and expensive to have on screen. But the ones I think have scratched my dragon itch the most from film and TV are probably Smaug and the dragons from House of Dragons. They're both really cool looking, at the same time as they feel very believable. But in my opinion, those are not the best depictions of dragons. I think the best dragons are the ones in illustrations. Both Warhammer and Magic the Gathering are and have been big influences on me since quite a young age, and in both of these, illustrations are a big part of the immersion into the world. When I see a good painting of a dragon, it really scratches that itch. I think the fact that I can't see it move in real time gives my brain the opportunity to fill in every other detail just how I want it, which makes it feel like something more than just a flying, fire-breathing lizard. With the lines in place, it was time to define the shapes with light and shadow. To do this, I filled the silhouette with a light value to describe the light family. Then I first focused mainly on figuring out the shadow family with a darker value. And then as I go, I use more and more values to help me describe all of the shapes. I have talked quite a bit about what dragons have influenced me during my life, and I would like to name a few more that I think are worth mentioning. First up, we have the dragon from Shrek. She is probably one of the first dragons I ever saw, which makes her a little bit special. Next up, I want to talk about the fell beasts from the Lord of the Rings movies. I think they are extremely cool and terrifying. I know that they aren't really dragons, but I think they get to make this list anyway. After that, I want to mention Ugin and Nicol Bolas from Magic the Gathering. I think they too are very cool, but especially since they have so much personality and behave more like people than beasts, like many other dragons do. Then, I also want to show you Archeon, the Everchosen, which I think is one of the coolest miniatures ever. I also want to talk about another YouTube artist's dragon that has inspired me a lot. This one from Hardy Fowler. I just think it is so majestic, and the shapes that he uses just makes it look so beautiful. Last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about one of my most recent dragon influences, which is Rebecca Yarros' Empyrean series. The dragons in these books were one of the biggest inspirations for me to start my own world building project. And because they are only written about, I can imagine them however I want, which is kind of cool. Now, while you watch the rest of this painting process, I want to show you a few of my other childhood drawings. And if you want to see something like this again from me, you can vote down in the comments which one of my drawings you would like to see me repaint. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the painting taking shape. thought this was really fun, and I think Baby Baronen would be so happy to receive this illustration of his dragon design. And like I said, that was the goal with this illustration. Tell me in the comments what you think about this painting, and if you want to see more of these videos. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider giving it a like. And subscribe so that you don't miss when I upload more. With that said, I want to thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay.